Welcome to my animal biology course selection guide for second years. I'm Kyla and I'm going into my third year of animal biology.
And I'm Madison, and I'm going into my third year of animal biology.
And in this episode of Apps on Air, we're going to explore what second year brings. Tougher courses, more focused content, and a growing need to think about your long-term goals. We'll share tips on managing the workload, exploring your interests, and beginning to shape your academic path moving forward.
Okay, but before we go into specific courses, we're going to talk about some general information that you should know for this upcoming year. First, we're going to be covering the fact that now you will be enrolling for fall 2025 and winter 2026 at the same time. Course offerings for both of these will be open on Tuesday, June 17th. That means you'll be picking for both winter and fall.
And for the fall 2025 and winter 2026 course selection will begin on June 23rd, 2025. Windows will open based on how many credits you have completed and or you're enrolled in. Course selection for fall 25 courses will continue until Friday, September 12th, 2025. And course selection for winter 2026 courses will continue until Friday, January 9th, 2026.
And for you second years, course selection date will start on Tuesday, July 8th at 8 a.m., which is 2.75 completed credits or in progress. As long as you haven't taken additional credits, this is when you start. If you did take additional credits, you have to look on WebAdvisor to see when your day would be. But yeah, that's it for all general information. Okay, for our first course of first semester of second year, we're going to start off with AGR 2350. Now, this is the continuation of AGR 1350. This is labeled Animal Production Systems and Industries for Beef, Swine, and Other Species. Now, this course is a bit drastically different from 1350 in the sense that 1350 you were focusing on two main species, which is poultry and bovine. This one, you're going into beef cattle, you're going into swine, you're going into mink, you're going into llama, but you're not touching on them as heavily as you are, let's say, for beef or swine. So a little bit different pace. For this class, there are the similar trips as 1350. We got to go to a beef farm, we got to go to a fish hatchery, we got to see an industry professionals in class talk about how fisheries are managed. There was somebody who came and talked about pet nutrition and talked about the cats that we also have at the university with the research center. There was also random assignments such as hot topics. Now, these were like the most tedious thing to do on a Sunday when you just wanted to get them over and done with. You had to write basically a discussion post regarding any topic they had. For one of them, we had horse meat. Now, I remember going, why? Why are we talking about this? But it was kind of fun to learn in the end. And it was kind of cool to interact with other people and be like, well, I think this and this. And, well, you're kind of right. But did you know this and this? It was kind of easy marks as long as you tried your best, got what the TAs wanted, and it was easy marks. But that's kind of it. There was a midterm and a final, both not cumulative. They split the content, but I did find that the final exam was a bit daunting because these testing usually has about 150 marks per exam. Because it's not specific and detailed, they'll give you a lot of content and be like, okay, try to memorize what you can, basically, because it goes beyond anatomy, physiology, it goes into industry specifics, goes into what the quota is per the year, and such and such. I don't know, what do you think, Kyla?
Like for the exams, they were very specific. Like she drew numbers and all these statistics. So that's why this course does build off of your first year course of agriculture 1350. But I honestly prefer that a lot more because that one you actually had fun with the course. Like you went more into depth about beef and dairy cattle and poultry touched upon that. But this one, it's everywhere. It's you touch a lot on the topics of different species, which was nice to learn about mink, llamas, goats, sheep, and all of that. But there's no one topic per se. But yeah.
And it was hard to narrow what you should know about each species because there would be randoms like, oh, this is their breeding season length, but then they'll give you the breeding season of another animal or the gestation period of that animal. And it's like, okay, how do you balance what you should know? Because in this class, it was a mix of true and false, multiple choice, short answers, fill in the blanks. We had to draw a diagram, which was the life cycle of, I believe, a pig. And it's just like you just need to know to a T of what you need to know, but it's not necessarily hard content. And if you're somebody who loves memorization, then you'll be fine in this class for the most part. But yeah, I think that's mostly it for AGR 2350.
The next course you're going to have to take in your third semester is Introduction to Biochemistry, which is BioC 2580. This course is a prereq for vet school if you're planning to go to the Ontario Veterinary College. So you're going to need this biochemistry, but don't worry, it may be a bit tricky, but if you don't do too well in this course, there's another biochemistry that you can take, which is BioC 3560, Structure and Functions in Biochemistry.
Okay, let's go into some specifics of this course now. Bless this course's soul. As somebody who didn't do well in Chem 1040, Chem 1050, I believed at least my knowledge of Chem was straight garbage, okay? But this course turned around my perspective because I will be taking that third year biochem because how much I love this course. Now, this course is a really good foundation for other courses you'll be taking in the future, such as Introduction to Nutrition, which is a Nutrition 3210. Now, for the professor we had Enoka Wij, who's amazing. Love that woman down. But she was so good at teaching. She was very passionate. The professors, even no matter who you have, these professors who teach biochem are very passionate about wanting you to learn, wanting you to understand, and build that foundation that you will need for years to come. Now, this course is a bit less daunting as Chem 1040 and Chem 1050. You still have the similar setup of bi-weekly labs that are going to be running approximately 3 hours. But what I found really great about these labs is that, with Chem 1040 and Chem 1050, you are marked based on the accuracy of your experiments. So if something went wrong in the lab portion, that affected your sig figs. But in this course, sig figs do not really matter as much as long as you round correctly. And you could always use another group's data. But as long as your answers processes were correct, TAs would be marking based on that, not based on how well your experiment went. So as long as you understood how to get there, got the correct answer, you're fine. This course is a little different than the regular chem in the sense that before each lab section, you have a 10-minute lab quiz based on the content of your lab manual and the lecture content that would go along with the specific lab. It was a little tricky if you weren't familiar enough with the lab, so I do recommend reading the lab, reading it thoroughly, taking notes before every single lab period, because if you go in blind, you're going to fail, just being honest. And then another thing about this course is we did have quizzes. Each quiz was worth 2.5% for a total of 4 quizzes, which were very light, very well made. They gave you a strong foundation for the midterms and the final, which both, in my opinion, were basically very fair. The midterm, I don't remember how much the midterm was. I believe it was 20%, and then the final was 40%. But biochem is cumulative, so everything that you were doing throughout the semester mattered. Now, it depends on who your professor is, but our professor told us in advance what we should channel in, what we should focus on for each standardized testing. So for the midterm, she will say, no, this, and this. And for the final, she told us, know your Krebs cycle, no glycolysis, know this, and this from the first section. So it was very structured, very well. I felt like at least that chem had a lot of support from your TAs, a lot of support from your professors, and they just genuinely wanted you to succeed in that course. How do you feel?
I feel all the same way. Just a tip is that I found that the quizzes, we write our quizzes in the first 10 minutes of our lab section. And that does sound scary, but honestly, all the answers are in your lab manual. So if you just read your lab manual before going to your lab and you understand how your lab is going to go, all the procedures, why you're doing that lab, you're going to ace your quiz. So don't worry about that. And also for like our midterm and exams, at least our professor, we did like eye clicker questions throughout our like lectures, which are just basically questions she'll just put up and then we'll do them as a class. These questions were really similar to the ones that she actually put on her midterms and finals. So if you were able to answer those, you're set. You're good. And as long as you review and always take notes and just understand the content, you're going to be fine for this course.
And bless up, no more dry labs. Don't have to worry about those no more. Don't have to go and do your online modules. You just need to keep up with the course content because it can get overwhelming if you're not staying on top of things. And please, if you're watching this, make sure you know your amino acids because that will continue to be used in future years to come. There's people who are going into third year that forgot how to do that. And I'm like, guys, why did we spend all this time in biochem? Come on. But yeah, that's all for biochem. Okay, for our next course, we will be touching on a continuation of Bio 1090. It will start now, Foundations in Molecular Biology and Genetics, which is MBG 2040. Now, if you've done a little research about this course so far, you can hear people say that this course is not the greatest. It is content heavy, and if you do not stay on top of your content, you will be one of the many who will fall behind. And so don't feel super intimidated, but mentally prepare yourself for how much this is going to be. Now, this course was like a split between two different professors. One professor taught up until the first midterm, which was 36%, and then a different professor taught till the final, which is 36%. Both of the testing were only multiple choice, but don't think that's the greatest thing because it can be tricky if you're trying to narrow down your focus and you're stuck between two, which is a lot, which happens a lot in this course. But yeah. What do you think?
Like on top of that, we had seminars each week. Personally, we chose the hybrid section, so our lectures were online. So we just joined a Zoom and then we attended our lectures through that. And then the videos were also posted online. But for our seminars, they were in person. So this was like about a class of maybe 25 students and with a TA, like a teaching assistant that was teaching us the material. This was actually really nice because while our lectures were online, I couldn't really ask my teacher, like the prof, any questions. So whenever I'd go to my seminar, I was able to ask my TA, hey, like, can you further explain what you said about this topic today? But in addition to that, I was also able to go to office hours for my profs. So that was also something that was really nice.
Yeah, and this seminar is pretty light because it's not graded based on your assignment. It's based on participation. So as long as you showed up and signed up, you got your mark. There are some people I know that didn't go, but there are also a couple of occasions. Don't quote me on the number. It may change from year to year, but there were opportunities for us to miss specific seminars and still fill the percentage requirement needed. So out of, let's say, 10, if you missed one, you would be fine. You'd still get full marks because they drop one grade from that. And also, there are weekly quizzes based on the content you learned from that previous week, which again, you would be able to drop only one of those. So maybe you missed one, or maybe your mark is just atrocious and you just don't want to keep it. You could easily have one dropped and maintain the other ones. But yeah, this course was definitely a roller coaster. I know, like, me going into the midterm versus me going into the final, my mark for the midterm was really mid, let's just say. And so for the final, I knew I had to do way better. And it gets a bit better once you get to the second half. It all depends on who you are as a person. The first half was more pedigrees, genetics, based like that. The other half was more like bacteria, transcription, translation, all of that great stuff. It just depends on what your strong suits are. But yeah, just good luck. And yeah, I think that's it for MBG.
So another course you'll be taking this semester is another MBG 2400, is Fundamentals of Plant and Animal Genetics. This class has a mix of lectures and labs, but don't be afraid. These aren't wet labs where you have to go in to do an experiment or any of that. This is more like a help session. So in this course, you're going to be doing weekly quizzes, where you have a whole week to do it as long as you hand it in by the deadline. And these lab sections that you're scheduled for is an opportunity where TAs will tell you this is what your quiz is about. And honestly, they help you with the quizzes. If you ask them like, hey, like, can you help explain this question in the quiz? They'll walk you through it, show you every step you need just so that you can get the right answer.
Yeah, this course was definitely a bit different in the sense that if you remember from first year, Bio 1050, we had 4 different professors. This class also did have 4 different professors, but the first half was very plant focused. You were learning some stuff that overlapped with MBG 2040 in the sense of pedigrees or genetics. And then the other prof would switch to something else that you covered. If I'm being honest, that first half was a blur. But it's what you will be going into for your first midterm, which is very, let's say, daunting because I found that this content was way different than the other MBG. They just focused on a bit of different things. It wasn't crazy hard, but I found it was a little difficult. This is the similar process in the same as the other MBG course in the sense that the midterm was like 36% and the final was 36%. So your assignments made up that little portion. The second half of this course is a lot more math based, starting with Andy Robinson. Sorry, all the plugs for him. But, anyways, he did a lot of different calculations. You'd be looking at migration rates, you'd be looking at the probabilities of getting a specific color, breeding statistics, stuff like that, which will be going into different future courses, such as MBG, I believe 3060. So you just build that foundation, you get a formula sheet, which is great. But the only thing I found difficult about this portion of the course was, although the math wasn't difficult, it's more of knowing what you're being asked for because there could be similarities in what you're solving for, but it all depends. It wasn't horrible of a course, but it was pretty okay. It was very interactive though, like especially in the first half. We had this one prof who would sit down and then go, okay, participation time, and would make us run around the auditorium. So that's how you started paying attention, was because people were running around based on what the professor would say. But yeah, it was a pretty fun course for the most part. But I think that's pretty much it for this course. There's nothing too crazy. You have 2 MBGs, so if you ever want to apply these to vet school, you already have 2 ready down in your first semester of second year. So yeah. Okay, so for your final course of your first semester of second year, you have the option of choosing between statistics, which is your introduction to statistics, which is 2040, or you could choose a liberal education electives as you did for first year. Now, for me, in her case, we decided that we didn't want to pair stats with a biochem course or the MBG courses, so we took it in second semester. So we'll get to that in a bit. But in my case, if you watched the last video, you would know that I took Intro to Psychology, which is Psych 1000. Really great, easy DE course. Pay attention to your readings. Pretty light essays. I had 2 essays, easy marks. Loved it. Loved the professor. He was very responsive to whenever I had questions. And yeah, if you just want to learn more, have fun, take that. What about you?
I took Introduction to Linguistics, which is Ling 1000. This was a very fun and easy course for me. There was no exam. There were bi-weekly discussions though. There are 2 assignments worth 20% each, but they're just online through like the course link quiz that you just open up and you have 2 attempts to do. There are also weekly quizzes that your worst 2 marks are going to be dropped. Same with your discussion. Your worst mark will get dropped. So, great course if you want a higher grade.
And congrats, you finished your first semester. That's all for now. And now for our special guest, Alyssa.
I just wanted to come in here quickly. I ended up so I took stats second semester as well, but I took in my first semester as my elective, I took Univ 2100, which is career ready. I would highly, highly, highly recommend taking this course because it is like, not only is it pretty easy, it also sets you up for like applying for jobs, and you get to do things like build a resume, a cover letter, and then also like build a LinkedIn account. So it's really good for also making connections. So if you're looking in for another elective, Univ 2100 Career Ready is a great option.
So another course you're going to have to take during your winter semester is Principles of Animal Care and Welfare, and side 2210. This does count for an elective, so that's half a credit down.
Okay, so for the details of this course, honestly, there's not a lot to say. It's more of an English-based course. It's pretty straightforward content talking about welfare of like you're given a scenario. Is this cow in pain? Yes, no. Is this housing condition good? Yes, no. It's not really hard content, but with this testing, they are very detail oriented on like, okay, do chickens, are they nocturnal or not? Like stuff like that. If you know your animal basics, you're good. And for you Aggie students who I've heard in the past, don't rely on your previous knowledge because the professor has different beliefs than you. So please go along with what the course is saying if you want to succeed. Now, the assignments in this class are worth a lot more because this course has changed a lot drastically in the last couple of years. In the last couple of years, it used to be worth, I believe, 1 credit, and it ran in first year. Now it's running in second year, and it's only 0.5 credits. Now what we do is we have assignments. There were 3 assignments. 2 of them were videos where you had to record yourself being like, "This is what I believe. This is what I think. This, and this matters." And then you submit it, and then you'd have to respond to your peers' videos of why you agree, what you disagree with, if their pronunciation was pretty okay, stuff like that. The other assignment, that one gave me nightmares. It was about chicken housing. Now, I'm someone who is not familiar with chickens at all, so I learned a lot from this assignment because there was one section where you were given like what is wrong with this, and then the other section was what do you recommend, and for what you recommended you had to use 5 cited sources for less than, I believe, 750 words. Now that sounds like a lot. Don't worry, you get through it fine. But basically that's pretty much it. This exam wasn't cumulative, so your midterm, stop that content, start new content after that. I personally found the first midterm to be really, really easy. I did very well on that midterm. Second half wasn't hard, just a lot more content. These are one of those courses that you accidentally study for 2 days before and do okay. Don't recommend it. Not trying to promote bad habits, but if you end up doing that, you should pretty much be fine. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this course. Okay, so for our next course of this semester, we have Structures of Farm Animals, which is ANSI 2340. Basically, this is your anatomy, physiology, histology class, your good introduction to every basic animal system you should know. There's a lot of stuff that touches on the cow's 4-chambered stomach, chicken, digestive system, all of that good stuff. This class, though, is daunting. I will not lie to you and say it's not, because when you get that outline, it's going to tell you that you have 2 midterms with 25% and a 50% final. Now, for me personally, that was the most percentage I've ever seen on a final exam. So I was there like, okay. But luckily for our professor, she said that we had quizzes that were worth bonus marks for 5% of our grade, which would be added on to the final. This class is cool though. It's just like anatomy, and then it goes into meat specifics. But there was a couple cool experiences, right, Kyla?
Yeah, like this class, on top of all the material that we learned about like all the different systems and like meat quality and like the grading system, we also had labs. And during our labs, we went on different trips. So we went to different beef facilities. We also got to see, this was voluntary though, was a slaughterhouse. So we were able to see the whole process of it, from it the cow coming in alive to it being loved.
Loved.
But honestly, like it has made me appreciate meat a lot more, and it was honestly a really nice experience.
Yeah, we got lucky in our lab section. We were there right when that cow went into the chute and watched the entire process from beginning to end, whereas some people didn't necessarily get that opportunity. It was cool, but the only thing that was a little daunting was at the on top of our lecture content, we also had lab notes. So you'd go into specifics of how pigs are taken apart or cows are taken apart or chickens, and then you have to learn different muscles. So take that into consideration when you're studying, and don't do what I did and read the labs last minute, because I didn't know anything going.
Yeah, so there will be a lot of content in this course, but as long as you keep up with it and you keep reviewing it just daily or at least every other day, you're going to be good.
Yeah, that's it for this.
So another course you're going to be taking this semester is MCB 2050, which is Molecular Biology of the Cell. If you've heard anyone talk about it, it's kind of scary. It's going to be one of the courses they tell you to look out for. But yes, it's content heavy, but just review your lecture slides. Just review all the material as often as possible and just make sure you know it, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, this is like a PSA if you get who we get, not to name drop, but there are slides that from previous professors that have something called figure captions. Did not know as greatly as what they were until this class. Basically, you'd have your general PowerPoint, your little block. Underneath them was like sentence on sentence on sentence of details of what they were showing in that small image. Now, if you're stuck with these slides, read those figure captions. Read them like you've never read before in your life, okay? Because I promise you, they will take one little detail and put that on the test, okay? Now, those things gave me PTSD, I won't lie. And then, so just my suggestion for what I did was to make them into smaller chunks, which doesn't sound great because a lot of these tests require step-by-step processes of knowing where this enzyme goes and what order that enzyme will come, as well as this list. Now, we didn't talk about this earlier, but SLGs for this course are so helpful. SLGs are your student learning groups. Basically what it is a TA that's succeeded in this course teaching it for you guys. What I loved about what we went to, I went to barely any if I'm completely honest, but the TA that I did went to had a list of every single term you would need to know for your test, and she'd get you to write out which each of them meant and what their function would be. Now that helped me succeed because at least I know what that meant and then placed it in that system. Because this testing is different than MBG. This testing will have a mixture of multiple choice, short answers, and fill in the blanks. It all is all up to the professor's discretion. So our midterm and our final were structured a bit differently, but it's still the same as like you have to do a written component and you have to do a multiple choice component. What do you think about this course?
Yeah, like SLGs were really helpful because these were students that did these courses before, so they have experience with going through the midterms and exams. So when we approached our exam dates or midterm dates, they would give us resources and practice questions based on how their questions were. And I found these really similar to what I sometimes found on our midterm and finals. So it was really good practice and a really good resource just to have.
And also, this course is like, there's a lot of courses that you'll be like, oh, we need a textbook, oh, we don't. I didn't find that we needed a textbook for this course. It was more just using the textbook to affirm your knowledge. It wasn't using it to understand new content. So as long as you understood your lecture slides, you'd be golden. And then another thing about this course that I forgot at the top of my head was, oh, yes, you also had quizzes for this class too, each worth a percentage. You were allowed to get 2 of them dropped. And then the seminar portion for this class, as is similar to the previous MBG, this is different though because you would have written assignments that you had to turn in the last 15 minutes of your seminar period. So you were there scrambling. But what I learned is that if you prepare yourself, look at online, find resources, they pretty much are similar to what you are able to see in the actual seminars themselves. You still have to go for attendance because if you're not there for attendance, you cannot turn in your assignment to get the mark because there's some people that would try to skip the seminar but turn the assignment in, which you can't do. So I recommend before going into your seminar period, try to look at it, take an understanding of it, because that way you can get in and out and go to your next class and not sit there being like, I need to get this done. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for MCB. MCB is one of those daunting courses. I won't lie to you. I found that the first half was way harder than the second half based on those figure captions because the figure captions did not appear in the second half at all. The first half was a bunch of random topics, and then second half was very focused on the nucleus. And I liked the fact that you had a start point and you had an end point as you worked through the cell. But yeah, that's it for MCB.
Okay, so another course you're gonna have to take this semester is Fundamentals of Nutrition, NUTR 3210. This is honestly a really fun course because I think our professor made it really fun. He was really engaging, and professors make or break a course, but he was able to keep us engaged and taught the content like he loved it and actually made it stick and explained it in a way that I understood it really easily. It is content heavy in terms of he throws a lot of like vitamins and minerals at you that you're gonna have to know. And on top of that, he's gonna mention like all the deficiencies. So just make sure that you know your vitamins and all of that to T by the time you reach the second half, because the final is cumulative. And then since nutrition is an integrative science, those vitamins will play a factor in how you're going to explain how it affects the body.
Yeah, for this course, let's say the first half up until the midterm, breeze light, biochem 2580. If you paid attention in that course, you're golden solid, pretty much amino acids, learning a couple new things, but you're chilling. Second half, second half was a different breed, okay? That's when you go straight into your vitamins and minerals, where they'll talk about the different groups of minerals and their functions in the bodies. And like she said, it's an integrative science. So one mineral you'll see in this one will be in another pathway. And a lot of them have pathways that you have to memorize, like oxidative defensive systems or sunlight, how it comes into the body and stuff like that. So you have to stay on top of second half because for our semester, it was our very last exam. And I remember being like, okay, this is going to be the exam I fail because it's just so heavy that you just didn't expect it until you're trying to do it. And there's a lot of them that have different names. Like you'll have vitamin D that will have 3 different names depending on the process. So please review this content the most out of all of those classes, I would say. But yeah, I think nutrition.
Also, like it'd be best for you to know it to a T because the midterm and finals are multiple choice, but there's the slightest bit difference in like the different options. So unless you know it, it's gonna be hard to differentiate between your four options.
Yeah, there's a lot that will say, okay, this is for this type of process, and they'll give you a bunch of vitamin names. You can't just guess based on the question. You have to know, or you're gonna be screwed. Now, there is an assignment that is in this class. Unfortunately, for you people taking this class coming, this assignment is gone. So there will be an assignment that you have to do. Hopefully, it's good. For us, it was a dietary assessment where we got to track our nutrients throughout the day. But for you guys in the future, good luck because the assignment was pretty easy. So hopefully your assignment is also easy. But yeah, that's it for nutrition. Our last course of the semester where we chose to take it was Stats 2040, which is your Intro to Statistics 1. So, coming from people who did okay in math in high school, did okay in calculus, this was a different breed of math because not only are you doing math, you're also importing it into a computer system known as R. And I thought I was good at Excel. This is nothing like Excel. This is similar but like a different breed if you don't know your commands, and that's something that requires you to know commands. There's 2 options of taking statistics: online or in person. Now, it depends on your strengths and it depends on what you hear from other people or what you're capable of. If you're an independent person, then I say take it online. It's just that you're going to have to input the numbers through R and your answers are submitted into the, let's say, the course link quiz. Now, if you're off even by a decimal, you're getting a fat 0. So if you want to take that risk, go right ahead. We took it online. It was okay, wasn't the greatest, but at least it's over with for us. If you take it in person though, the difference is that your testing will be mostly based on theory concepts and what you would use specific equations for. Now, for this class, for us, it got changed from semester to semester. First semester, people had it different than our semester, so all of the grade distribution changed. Our final was worth 45%. We had 3 midterms. Each midterm was worth 12 or 19% for 2 midterms. They put the lowest midterm as 12%. Now, those were kind of daunting because of it being so high and our assignments going from, let's say, 12% to 4%. and then the other one going from 12 to 6%. That is such a major drop, and that scared us a lot going into it. But the assignments are really easy marks as long as you follow what the professor is saying and understand the ins and outs of R, you'll be fine. Just preface of saying, if you do not do the greatest in this course, don't worry. There is Stats 2050, which is the next version of Stats. So don't let whatever happens in this course deter you from taking it in the future, because it will be fine. But yeah, that's it for Stats.
Yeah. And if you want more information about how Stats 2050 might go, you can watch the next episode to listen to Julia talk about her experience with Stats 2050. Second year is all about building momentum, and every challenge is a chance to grow stronger academically and personally. Whether you've solidified your path or are still exploring options, you're gaining clarity and confidence. Keep seeking opportunities, stay connected, and don't be afraid to pivot if something new sparks your interest.
That's all for now. Bye. Thank you for listening.
The Boomer Food.